Hey y'all, it's Stacy. Welcome back to the kitchen. Today I'm showing you how to make what is possibly one of the most ultimate southern side dish. This is my recipe for fried potatoes. Now if you love this recipe and this video, why don't you click subscribe? That way you get notifications each time we upload brand new cooking videos. Now to start, we're going to talk about our potatoes. My preference is to use a russet potato. It's a little starchy, it caramelizes nicely. Some people will say that the starch causes them to fall apart, but if you use the method that I use, you're going to find that they don't fall apart very easily, and I think the advantages of having the additional starch outweigh the risks of them falling apart. What we're going to do is we're just going to peel these. I've got about 2.5 pounds of russet potatoes. I'm just going to peel these. I've washed them really well, and then we're just going to peel them and slice them. All right, once we've got our potatoes peeled, we're going to slice them up. And we want to be pretty uniform with this. That way we ensure that they all cook through at about the same time. For smaller potatoes, I think we can leave them whole. For these bigger potatoes, I'm going to cut them in half. But we want to make sure that our slices are about 1/8 of an inch thick. Now, once you get to the end of the potato, it's kind of hard to cut it into those thin slices. So keep a few slices right here with it. That way you can hold both sides. And when you press together, you have something a little bit to hold on to so you can squeeze that potato and get that thin slice there. All right, once we got our potatoes sliced, and they don't have to be perfect, but we want to get them as uniform as possible. Now we're going to talk about an onion. I've got a yellow onion here. I find that any onion will work, but a yellow onion or a sweet onion like a Vidalia will work best. We're going to use about half of this and just dice it up. All right, once we got our onion chopped here, let's talk about our pan. I really like to fry potatoes in a heavy bottom cast iron skillet. It could be cast iron like this, it could be enameled cast iron, and you can even use a nonstick pan if you need to. The thing is if you opt for cast iron like this, which I think is the best, you're gonna need a lid. Most cast iron skillets don't come with a lid, but if you have another lid, maybe from another pan, you can always use that. It doesn't have to fit perfectly, but we're gonna need that lid. In here, I got about 1/4 cup of vegetable oil. You can use vegetable oil or peanut oil. All we're gonna do is heat that till right when the oil starts to shimmer, then we're gonna add our potatoes in here. Now, some recipes will tell you that you need to soak your potatoes to remove some of the excess starch. I think if you wanna do that, knock yourself out. When I'm cooking supper, the last thing I wanna do is have to think about pulling a bunch of potatoes out of water and drying them off. I'm not sure that it makes enough of a difference to actually add that extra step, but if you want to soak the potatoes, just make sure they're really dry because you don't want to add wet potatoes into the hot oil. Not only will it pop out and burn you, but you're going to have a mess all over your stove. All right, I've kind of evened these out as much as possible. Now we're going to add the onions on top because we don't want these onions to be in contact with the heat right away because they're going to cook faster than the potatoes and we run the risk of them burning, so we're going to add them on the top here. All right, now the lid comes into play. We're going to cover these, trapping the heat and steam inside so that we get those potatoes cooked through rather than just the ones on the bottom with direct contact with the heat getting cooked. We're going to cover this and cook it untouched for about 8 minutes. All right, it's been about 8 minutes. I'm going to take the lid off here and you can see that our onions are starting to turn a little translucent. Things are starting to cook through. Now's the point where we're going to add some seasoning. I'm going to add about 1/2 to 1 teaspoon of salt. And then about 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper. Now, one thing that I will point out is that this is a 12-inch cast iron skillet, and it might be a little small for all these potatoes. You could certainly reduce the number of potatoes, use a larger skillet, or even just cut the recipe in half if you have something smaller to use. Once we've got our salt and pepper in there, then we're going to turn these. Now, the goal here is to turn these as little as possible because we want to give them time to get against that heat, to caramelize, turn golden brown. So we're only going to turn these 2 or 3 times total. Now that they've been in here for about 8 minutes, I'm going to flip them over. And you can see this nice, beautiful golden brown color here. Once we got them all flipped over, we're going to cook these for about 10 more minutes, maybe flipping them 2 more times, or until they're nice and tender and golden brown. All right, so our potatoes are nice and tender and cooked through. We've got beautiful golden brown color on here. Now, I will say too, one of the things that you kind of just have to watch is you may have to add a little additional oil depending on the particular type of potatoes that you might be using or even the vessel that you're cooking them in. So just watch for that. We've obviously had plenty of oil here. What I'm going to do is just pull these out, drain them on some paper towels or a plate lined with a paper towel here. I might add just a little more salt and pepper to the top of these, and they're ready to serve. You're gonna wanna serve these warm, and whether you eat them with ketchup or just by themselves, they're just such a great, delicious, and pretty easy side dish that you can add to just about any meal. You can find this full, easy recipe by heading over to the website at southernbite.com and just search for Southern fried potatoes. Y'all enjoy.